right, guys, welcome back to the show. Very special guest today. Look at the man. It's Coach Koop.
5 seconds in, I'm throwing up the U, of course.
He has to throw it up right away. Of course, he supports the U, supports the Canes. We had to get him on to get some insight on the opponent. It's been a great game week. It's been a great couple of weeks preparing for this game, and now we're going to get the ultimate. He calls it inside. I just call it an awesome guest on this channel. But Koop, man, thanks for jumping on. And let's just start with your Canes, man. Talk to me about the year. It's been a breakthrough year, much like for A&M. We're kind of in that same boat where we felt like we had what it takes, but we just come up a little bit short. So talk to me about the emotional journey this year has been. Some downs, but finished really strong. Just talk to me about the year Miami's had.
Man, I got to start with saying I could get used to this. I realize we have not played this first game in the college football playoffs just yet, but being able to have just even have an opportunity to play a meaningful game or games here in December is great. I'm super thankful. We feel blessed. As Miami fans, we're a proud and passionate bunch. A large portion of this fan base remembers the glory days. They've seen greatness. So expectations are generally pretty high season to season. And for me personally, based on the moves that were made, the way that the schedule lined up year 4 under Mario Cristobal, I was more invested than ever before, and I expected a lot out of this team. I had actually predicted an ACC championship game, at least appearance. Obviously, I don't think many people saw it being Duke and Virginia, but somehow we found our way. We snuck into the playoffs here, and I'm just super thankful. I think that this fan base has been through a lot, and I believe that we deserve it.
Yeah. Very similar boat over here. Maybe not the recent history that Miami's had through the late 90s, early 2000s and all that, but still a lot of reasons for A&M to kind of feel good about where the program is, just never to finally hit it. And it's great that two teams that are kind of in the same category get to meet, but unfortunately only one gets to move on. But before we get into the game and into Miami specifically, I want to go back to Selection Sunday. And you're sitting there, you're probably sweating because we knew we were in, because we felt like 11-1 was probably like a golden ticket. But at 10-2, you certainly had an argument. But things were kind of weird and crazy right there with Notre Dame. You had the head-to-head, but they've been doing some funky things, keeping Notre Dame ahead of you. So first of all, your reaction to getting in, and second of all, as soon as you saw you were in, you knew you were playing A&M. So what were your kind of initial thoughts on knowing A&M was the opponent?
You could have taken my shirt off and wrung it out. I was sweating bullets, man, because I made a prediction the night before, and I said, okay, they've got to put Miami in at this point, based on the way everything played out on the tail end and with the conference championship games. You must honor that head-to-head with Notre Dame. We beat them straight up. It should matter. And thankfully, they opened their eyes, and Miami finds themselves in. But I will say that when I saw that U logo pop up on the screen, I lost it, man. I had a little confetti cannon, those portable ones, and I can go pick up some confetti out of the corner of the room.
Those
over
things
here.
are a
There's
mess,
pieces
yeah.
of it everywhere. As a matter here, there's some right here. Here we
Yeah,
go. There's still confetti in here. So we were partying it up, having a good time. But realistically, even though I made that prediction, as a Miami fan, I was like, they're going to put Notre Dame in. We're going to get the short end of the stick again. We're going to get shafted. We're not going to be in it.
Well, the thing that they did, I think, where they kind of dug their own grave is kind of just keeping Notre Dame ahead of you the whole season, then changing it. It's like that's going to piss people off. And I think there's like an argument to not revealing it until the end, because I think we all had a feeling, at least the A&M side, like we had a feeling like Notre Dame was in there kind of as a placeholder, because we felt like something was going to happen. Miami and Notre Dame were going to be compared head to head, which is what that argument they were making. Like they need to be next to each other in the standings for us to compare them, which I thought was weird. But we had a feeling it was Miami or maybe Alabama if they dropped a spot, and we get the Canes, man.
Yeah, and getting A&M, I was happy about it. Not as in because I think it's an easy game, because I don't want an easy game. Yeah. I don't want the James Madison. I don't want the Tulane. And people always say, yeah, it's easy to say that now until you lose. But, I want to say that we went into this thing and we beat some of the very best teams in the country. And I put Texas A&M in there. I think A&M is when I think of A&M, I think dangerous team. Only year 2 under Elko. You've already found yourself in the college football playoffs. You've got a big experienced offensive line, a nasty D line. I was happy with getting A&M, and I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we're obviously both in that part of the playoff where it's an absolute journey to get to the championship game. And you're right, man. Like, of course, there are benefits to playing JMU or Tulane
Yeah.
to get your ticket punched and make it through round one. But, for Aggies, we get point and laugh a lot about the schedule that we ended up playing because a lot of the teams we played ended up just not having a good year. And it's like, well, we go out there, we win round of the playoff. What is that really going to prove to people? Like, we want to really show that we've arrived and we're here, and it's a great opponent to do it against. And let's talk about that opponent. Let's get into Miami here. And I kind of want to talk about the turnaround because mid portion of the year, a couple of things happened, a little thing called Louisville and SMU,
Mm.
pretty good ACC opponents, but I would assume that you don't feel great about the outcome in that 3-game stretch there. But then something seemed to change. It seemed like Miami really didn't skip a beat from that point forward. And I want to hear from you about what did change. What cleaned up? Did the team just focus in? What happened, Coop?
I feel like at that point, Miami was, if I'm not mistaken, at least a 2 touchdown favorite in both of those teams, against both of those teams. You're expected to win. Now, I think in those matchups, before I get into it, I think some of it was you see something in common with both of those losses. You look at the head coach of Louisville and SMU, they're known as great game day coaches. They're great schemers, and I think that Miami maybe got out coached a bit in those games, but that doesn't matter. That's in the past, right? We already
Mhm.
lost them. I think that basically they said enough is enough, both players and coaches. Are we really about to flush another season down the toilet? And once we had that second conference loss, we probably felt like the ACC championship game is out of reach at this point. So you're going to have to do something special if you want to find your way into the playoffs. So I
Yeah.
think that they knew they didn't want to play in another Pop Tarts Bowl, and it just had to be a different uh, level
Yeah.
of urgency, and they really did. It's like a switch just flipped. And if you look at the final 4 games there for the Canes, overall, it's been just complete domination. And there was something that helped a little bit. This is just my personal opinion, and we can get into it more here in just a minute. In that running back room, if you look at Gerard Pringle specifically, I'm a huge Gerard Pringle fan. Mark Fletcher actually got injured, and before that, Pringle's workload, it's running back by committee here at Miami. We have a lot
Mhm.
of good running backs in there, and he hadn't really ran the ball very much. He actually only had 10 carries, I think, up until that SMU game. Since then, he's had 48 for 302 yards, and he really just changes the way this offense looks, especially on first downs. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We'll talk about him more in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where I want to go next is this offense because yeah, you can see sometimes with teams when players go down and it's not like a devastating injury, it's a couple of week to week things that people can raise up and join the rotation. Like for A&M in the other video we just did, we talked about a guy like Damian Sanford for A&M, and he's a guy that got opportunity by way of injury, and he's been one of the
Hmm.
biggest havoc creators on the team. And Gerard Pringle, the running back, goes in for Fletcher, and I think he's averaging like 6+ yards a carry. He
He
just gets
is, yeah.
past that first level so quickly. He's like a dart through the hole, and it's really an impressive player. But talk to me about this offense at this point in the year. Now that we have the full regular season of a sample size, what would you say its biggest strengths are, and what its identity might be?
Uh, Obviously, with this Miami offense, you look at how physical they are, especially up front there, the push from the offensive line. And I think it's fair to say that it's a very efficient offense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's an explosive offense, but definitely very efficient. They're going to beat you down with a tough run game, and they're going to line up the superstar wide receiver Malachi Toney all over the place. You don't know if he's going to catch the ball, if he's going to run the ball, if he's going to pretend to run the ball and then he's going to throw it. Dawson calls it the Malley Cat instead of the Wildcat. So
Yeah.
you can line him up. He played some quarterback in high school. He's just a really tough guy to stop. Carson Beck has time if needed with that offensive line. But it really seems like the focus is getting the ball out quickly into the hands of our playmakers. But definitely just the focus is being super physical and efficient offensively for this
Yeah.
team.
I certainly see the efficiency. It seems like everything is kind of on time. Carson Beck, very much a rhythm thrower,
Yep.
great anticipation, great touch on the ball. And it just seems like everything happens in flow when things are going well. And I want to talk about those two things you just brought up, both Carson Beck and Malachi Toney and the greater, wealth of goods you have at skill position, because there's more than just him out there. But let's start with Beck. Let's start with Dawson. I saw mid-year when I peek at your stuff, when I peek at the Miami side, of course, as any fan does, you got to look when the things are going bad. You just want to see the reaction. And it seemed like there was a lot of kind of shade thrown their way. And there was reason for that, I would say, with the interceptions thrown in those 2 games. But since then, what's kind of the consensus feeling about Carson Beck, this transfer portal player from Georgia? We've seen a lot of them over the last few years, and now he's led the team to a playoff run.
Yeah, you're not wrong about the little bit of panic when it
Yeah.
comes to Carson Beck. Now, I want to make it known that I was very happy with that pickup. And I'm a Carson Beck believer. I'm a big fan of him. I love the idea of having a veteran guy at quarterback. We talk about he's not going to be rattled playing in Kyle Field. He's been on the big stage before. But when you look at that Louisville loss and SMU loss, Carson Beck threw 6 interceptions in those 2 games. And keep in mind that he's thrown 10 this entire season. So that's 6 in 2 games, and both of those ended up being losses. So a lot of Miami fans were maybe thinking they had some buyer's remorse there, because you say, oh no, it's a mental thing now. He's going to go back to 2024 Carson Beck and what he was doing at Georgia. He's going to become an interception machine. But he's really turned it around since that SMU loss. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's really dialed in right now. He's reeled the fans back in as well, and he's got everybody's support. It seems like he's really stepped it up. As far as Dawson, you did mention Dawson as well, right?
Yeah, I mentioned Dawson.
Yeah, people were frustrated with his play calling when it comes to the run game. Seemed like he was a bit unwilling to be creative and call some outside runs and things. At times, it felt like we were just beating our head against the wall. Hey, you might know what we're doing, but we're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to out physical you. We're going to go out there and we're going to dominate you. And I'll bring it up again, and I'll probably bring it up 10 more times in this video. Gerard Pringle, I think, helped a lot with that. He realized what he had once Pringle got the start and was able to kind of change the look of this offense a bit. And Dawson has been a bit more creative. I think you can sense the urgency there. Miami at times felt like they maybe needed some style points late in the season to prove a point. He had to open it up a bit. And I think it's fair to say the same about Dawson. Fans were quite upset at times early in the season, even when we were winning. But most people are back on the Dawson train again.
Yeah, wins and losses seem to dictate everything, and it makes sense. You start, finding W's, things get better. But yeah, man, I've called Dawson many things through this game week cycle. I've called him zesty, I've called him freaky, I've called him spicy. Because man, he's running some funky stuff.
And you got to check out the interviews. Yes, he will fire back at the reporters.
Really,
he was the one who, when people asked him, they were asking him about the run game, and then he said, "Okay, what do you want me to run? Give me a play." He will go back and forth.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you see that personality, I feel like, with what do you call it? The Mally Cat? Is that what you're calling it? The Wildcat with Malachi Toney? I mean, the end of the Syracuse game, you're doing like a throwback screen to Mauanoa for a touchdown. Like, what the heck is that?
More of that. I love it.
I know. I don't know if they're running that one in Kyle Field, but it's become a very fun offense to watch because you don't really know where they're going to go with it now. A lot of things have developed for you all over the course of the year. And before we get into defense, I'm going to hit you out of left field with this one. Just this offense translating to Kyle Field, road environment, big, loud, raucous crowd for a playoff game. I know it's 11 a.m., and that probably benefits the road team a little bit, but what do you expect from Carson Beck, this offensive line, how this offense can flow on the road in an environment like this?
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe it will be a major problem. Now, it could be bad if Miami finds themselves down, because we talk about how they're not necessarily a super explosive offense. And then if that really gets the crowd hyped up, right? If A&M goes up 10 or 14 and it's a very raucous environment, that stadium pulse maxed out, it could potentially be bad news. But as I said, I have to trust that we have a veteran there at wide receiver, and we have multiple transfers that have played in big time SEC games. They've been in Neyland, they've been in the Swamp. So I'm not going to say
Carson
that
Beck. Yeah, Carson Beck's the best example right there.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend like it's a non-factor. This is the home of the 12th man, College Station. Everybody knows it's a crazy environment. I do think that earlier kickoff could benefit Miami a bit more. You and I talked about in another video that, the Texas A&M fans got to wake up a little bit with that 11 a.m. kickoff. But I think that it could obviously have the potential to be big. But if Miami gets out to an early lead, it's a little bit earlier kickoff. They're known to kind of pound the rock and beat you down a little bit. I think they could take the crowd out of it
Yeah, and
personally.
that would be very high on my list of things you want to avoid for A&M is don't let them go off to a fast start. Defense has to bring it early. Don't let this offense get it going early because you're right. I mean, I think Carson Beck and a veteran offensive line are equipped to, do battle in front of this group. But when the group gets elevated effect on the game, is like you said, when you're playing from behind, when you're in must pass mode, when you're trying to get
Yeah,
back into games or
we
stay into
want to
games,
avoid that.
that's when A&M, both as a team, is at a strength, and the crowd will play more of a role in those clear passing downs, third downs, all
And
that stuff.
A&M's third down defense isn't it ranked as top in the country?
Top third down defense, top sack
Yeah.
rate, second in sacks in the country. The defense isn't perfect. It has its fair share of deficiencies. It does one thing really, really well, and that's win third and longs and getting you in third and longs. I mean, situationally, but when you get them in, you get off the field. It's like a 10% conversion rate on third and longs, something like that, third and 5+. So that's where you want to avoid if you're on the road and you're Miami, and that's where we want to live. That's where A&M wants to be this game when Miami's on the field. But let's flip the field. Let's talk about this defense. We talked about Toney. We talked about everything. I think we covered enough on the offensive side. I want to know about this front seven. I want to know about this defensive line and how are they stopping the run so well, man? Is it just as simple as having so many beasts out there? Like, what's going on out here?
I mean, the D line, the players that we have there is definitely a major factor. I mean, I feel like Mesidor and Bain are household names. You don't even have to be a Miami fan. You know
Right.
Mesidor, you know Bain. And also, I don't feel like people talk enough about the interior of that D line. I think it's just as nasty as well. And even some people look at Ruben Bain this season and they say, wow, he fell off. He hasn't really racked up the sacks. You look at guys like Cassius Howell. He has like 11 or 12 sacks, I think,
Mhm.
this season. Ruben Bain's nowhere near that, but he's opening up opportunities for other guys on that D line, like Mesidor, providing them opportunities to eat more in these games. But I think a lot of it, more so with being able to stop the run and being so effective this season, more so comes down to elite coaching and scheme from the new defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman. We know how bad that Miami defense looked, cost us honestly a chance to go into the playoffs and maybe play for a national championship. That
Yeah.
offense was something else with Cam Ward. And Lance Guidry let this team down in a big way. But Heatherman has a very aggressive mindset. Miami is
Mhm.
going to attack, they're going to dictate the play. And it helps that the portal additions in that DB room can hold their own. So Miami can afford to be, really aggressive like they are. But I really just tip my hat to Corey Heatherman. He's changed
Yeah.
this defense, and I think he's a big reason why they've been so effective with when it comes to turnovers and stopping the run.
Yeah, you talk about his aggression, and I set out and watched a bunch of Miami games in preparation for this week, obviously. And I was expecting just a lot of four-man rush and everyone sitting back and letting things happen, just letting these guys go to work. He is very aggressive. He walks a
Hmm.
lot of players up. He's walking six. I mean, at times, like half the team feels like they're on the line and you don't know who's coming and they're twisting off of that. They're maybe blitzing, they're maybe rushing four off of that. He loves to blitz his DBs. And correct me if I'm wrong, this DB group feels like a very physical DB group that supports the run really well. That's kind of the biggest vibe I kind of get from them as a unit.
Absolutely, and he expects a lot out of them, and he puts a lot on them in these games. And Miami fans, we're hoping and praying that we get Keontae Scott back.
Yeah.
That's a guy he's been battling turf toe, and we've had some other guys like Jacoby Thomas and others step up. But we're really hoping that we can get Keontae back for this game. And rumor is he's supposed to be, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of how it is with you guys with Le'Veon, and the coaches are kind of tight-lipped with it. We'll see what the injury reports say, but who really knows, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. It's like you don't want to give the information to the test out, right? You want to
Yeah.
keep them wondering. Keontae Scott, he's a big deal. I brought him up in every video I've made because he's that nickel spot that's going to support the running game, support the
Mhm.
box, blitz, but he's also going to have the assignment of Craver and Concepcion. So it's just like a really, really big piece, a swing piece for Miami to get back. And Cristobal said he's very hopeful or something like that. He kind of feels like it's going to happen in his Monday presser, but we'll have to see. Just like we're going to have to wait and see on Le'Veon Moss, even though we feel like he will be back. So waiting for some big injury news in that front. But Coop, I think we've rounded pretty much everything out. I want to get into kind of some overarching stuff and just answer the simple question in as many words as it takes. Miami wins the game if.
Mm, okay. I'll give you two things. I think in this one, you got to win the turnover battle. This Miami defense has forced 20 turnovers so far this season. They've racked up 12 interceptions. And I think that if you could force Reed to make some bad decisions, and maybe you pick off a couple of those. We talked about, it being a hostile environment at Kyle Field. I think being able to provide some extra possessions for the offense in that hostile environment could be huge.
Yeah.
And then also manageable third downs. Again, that Texas A&M third down defense, uh, holding opponents to it's like 22%
Yeah. Hmm.
conversion percentage. It's an insane number, and we don't want to find ourselves in third and long, obvious passing downs because again, this Miami offense is not super explosive. We do a lot of wide receiver screens. We like to run the ball, so we need to be in third and short, third and manageable. And I think that both of those things will be huge in this one.
All right. You're going to have to tell me what I want to hear here. I'm going to hit you out of left field with this one, too. Miami loses the game if. Get my notebook out real quick. I'm going to take notes on this one and pass it on to Elko. I think he needs to hear some of this from Coach Koop.
I think I know these are going to be some obvious ones, but it's just where we're at. You mentioned Concepcion, you mentioned Craver. If we can't limit those guys, if we're giving up big plays, if we're not tackling well, then that could be a very big problem. And also, when you look at the teams that Miami has played this season, we've played multiple teams that have dual threat quarterbacks, and Miami has been able to limit those guys.
Yeah.
They've been really effective. Honestly, they've pretty much shut them down for the most part. It's been a non-factor. But I've watched a lot of Marcel Reed, and that guy really is great at extending plays. He's got, I believe, multiple games, possibly with triple digits rushing. He's been the leading rusher in a few of them. If he's able to escape the pocket and continue to make big plays with his legs, it could be a bit of a problem. And given the fact that Miami has seen success in stopping that this season, if he's picking up big chunk yards with his legs, that's bad news for Miami.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's like you don't want them to have something change in this game, right? You've been good at this thing.
Exactly.
Don't let it change. And just like, Miami's been, I would say, an effective but not great, not explosive running team. That's changed with Pringle a little bit. But we don't want the lid to come off of this thing for A&M because that really just kind of changes the dynamic for Miami if they're railing off explosives in the running game, just like Texas did against A&M. That's an unfortunate recent sample size. I got to ask you, Coop, are you watching that Texas game on your rewatch of some A&M stuff and just kind of chomping at the bit, getting a little excited with that one? Because that one didn't make us look too good.
Yeah, so people were saying, did they provide the blueprint, right, for beating the Aggies? You guys started out hot, 11-0, just, then to drop that final game. I call them Texas. I'll just make it known.
I love that, by the way.
I'm not a Longhorns fan.
I might borrow that.
Yeah. So, good old Texas. They found a way to beat y'all late in the season. Absolutely. That's definitely a game that I've watched many times.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And let me ask you this last question before I get you out of here. I don't know. Do you want to give a score prediction or you want to save it for your side?
Absolutely. No, but let's talk numbers.
Okay, I got two. All right, we'll do the numbers now. They know my prediction. I'm 28-27 A&M, and I feel like this is a game you can be a homer in. I feel like this is a game where you're not wrong if you want to pick your home team and just feel good about it, because I think this is a really damn hard game to pick, and I could see this landing anywhere around that spread number. A&M obviously a 3.5-point favorite, over under at 51. So I'm going with the homer pick. I have A&M getting a big stop late in the game, and I think there's something on that board. Are you going homer on us?
I'm glad you brought that up because I absolutely am.
Yeah.
I am going with Miami, but I want to make it known. I know. All right. I watch your channel, Drew. I'm a big fan of it. Great content, high production. Like it looks and sounds fantastic. I don't know what Aggie fans are about to say to me, though. I don't know if they're about to eat me up in the comments because, like you said, Texas A&M 3.5-point favorite. I got the Canes winning by 7, and I have this thing going over. Am I out of my mind? Probably.
Yeah, you are.
But I believe.
Yeah,
I believe, Drew, and we want. It's one game at a time, but we want that Ohio State matchup. We want to get through round one, and we don't want it to all be for nothing, which is not really fair to say for nothing. I mean, you made it to the playoffs; it's a big deal. But we don't, after everything we went through, going 10-2, we're not getting into the ACC championship game. There's no way they're going to sneak us into the playoffs. It's not going to happen. Then just to turn around and lose in round one, everybody's going to say, we told you it should have been Notre Dame. We knew y'all didn't deserve to be in there. And we don't want to hear that. The players don't want to hear it. The coaches don't want to hear it. Miami's getting the W.
All right, man. I can't say I agree, but I respect it because honestly, the same thing could be said for both sides. The loser of this game is going to feel terrible. It's going to feel, I mean, obviously losing a playoff game sucks, but we're all getting that point and laugh. We're all getting that fraud alert if we lose this game because y'all have the midseason kind of blunder and y'all finished strong. We both beat Notre Dame early. A&M lost to the heated rival and they kept us out of the SEC championship. That felt terrible. Yeah. And this is the follow-up to it. So you lose 2 in a row to end the year. It feels like a lot of that momentum you gained, at least temporarily. I mean, you'll probably sit back and look at it as a better year later. But for the months coming out of this, it's going to feel really bad. So unfortunately, one of us are going to be really sad. But you know who was really sad, Coop? Those Notre Dame fans, man. This is the Notre Dame Daddy Bowl. Frick those guys. This is the Notre Dame Father Bowl. So one of us are going to be the real king of Notre Dame, and we'll have to fight it and duke it out and see who it is. Well, all right, Coop. Before I get you out of here, plug your stuff. I'm sure most people are familiar with you, but this is a Canes legend over here. Tell the people where they can find you.
I don't know if I deserve legend status here just yet, but we are out here working. We're grinding. Just type in Coach Koop on YouTube. It's at the Coach Koop over on Twitter or X, whatever they're calling it these days. If you don't know anything about me, it's just high energy, wild content. It's not uncommon to see me in a thumbnail in a trash can. I do diss tracks for teams. I have done a diss track on y'all's team. You guys might remember it from back in the day. I was going to say,
if y'all been thinking the whole time, does this guy look familiar? Where have I seen this guy from?
On your throat, come on now, don't be scared. Went all Super Saiyan mode, yeah. The Canes be back up in the mix. Other fan bases be crying because we really, really rich. John Ruby.
Yeah, this is the rap diss track.
This is the Vanilla Ice wannabe rapper man, who makes a fool of himself on the internet. But the reality is we just have a good time, man. College football means so much to me. And I always say we're all one big happy college football family. So everybody is welcome, even Texas A&M fans. We love the trash talk. And the one show that I will plug, Drew, is on Friday night. I'm doing a call-in show. I do this the night before every single game. If you call in and you predict the correct score for this game, you win $600. You don't even have to be a Miami fan. You can be a Texas A&M fan. So $600 on the line. I'll see you guys there on Friday. And I will just add, Koop's not backpedaling here. It's not that. I don't want this to fool people. I do think this game is going to be a battle. I think this is going to be a very tough game, and Drew is right, though. It truly could go either way.
Yeah, man. It's going to be fun, man. It's been a fun 2 weeks to preview this game. I mean, bonus football, bonus meaningful games. This is great. Like we said on your show, it'd be great to make a habit out of this, to keep doing these videos postseason every year, keep cranking these out. But unfortunately, Coop, one of us is going to be on the wrong side, and one of us is going to feel really good. We shall find out who that is. Coop, thanks for doing this, man. You got to flash the sign one time before we get out of here.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Gig 'em, baby.